The water bottle hit the wooden floor and rolled toward my feet, then another, then three more. I was standing near the presentation area when Sienna gestured too wide with her hands, knocking them all over. She paused mid-sentence, looked down at the mess, then looked at me. Could you get those? Not a question, a command. I bent down and started gathering them. The entire room watched. 43 people from Ashford Home Collection, the place I'd worked at for 11 years. We were 3 hours into the mountains at some retreat center, supposedly here to celebrate the upcoming launch of their new collection. Sienna was presenting her ideas for the launch party. She was 26. Her father owned the whole operation. Sorry, everyone. Where was I? She laughed, stepping over me while I crawled around collecting bottles. Oh, right, the gift bags for the event. Someone snickered. I kept my head down, reaching for a bottle that had rolled under a chair. My knees pressed against the wood floor. I could feel everyone watching. You know what this reminds me of? Sienna's voice rang out. My dog. My golden retriever, actually. A few people laughed, unsure where she was going. No, seriously. I taught Bruno to fetch in 2 days. 2 days. And he brings things back to me perfectly. She paused. You've been here for what? Over a decade? And you're still doing simple tasks like picking up after people? The room erupted. Not small laughs. Big ones. The kind that make your shoulders shake. I looked up from the floor. She was smiling down at me, arms crossed, looking pleased with herself. My dog is literally smarter than you. More laughter. Louder this time. I turned my head toward her father, Harold, who sat in the front row. He was grinning, his face red from laughing. He didn't say anything, didn't tell her to stop, just sat there, enjoying it. I grabbed the last bottle, stood up, and walked to the back, placed them on a side counter. Then I walked out. Nobody followed me. I could still hear them laughing as the heavy door closed behind me. I stood outside in the cold mountain air for a long time. The sky was that deep blue you only see away from the city. My hands were shaking, but not from the temperature. Let me go back. Let me tell you how I got here. My name is Lena. 11 years ago, I was 29 and desperate for steady work. My daughter was 5, and I was raising her alone. Ashford Home Collection was hiring someone to help manage their supplier relationships. They made luxury items for homes, beautiful things, wooden furniture with brass details, hand-dyed fabrics, decorative pieces that people paid thousands for. The woman who had the job before me was named Ruth. She was 62 and retiring. On my first day, she took me aside. Listen carefully, she said. The owners here, they're cheap. They don't want to pay for proper systems or contracts or lawyers. They want everything fast and quiet. So here's what I did for 20 years. And here's what you'll do if you want to keep this job. Keep everything up here. She tapped her head. Don't write it down. Don't put it in their systems. Keep the relationships personal. Keep them yours. That way, they need you. That way, you're not just another person they can replace. But what if something happens to me? I asked. She shrugged. Then they'll figure it out. But while you're here, you'll have a job, a real one. I needed that job, so I listened. Ruth spent 2 weeks with me. She introduced me to the factory owners she'd worked with. There was Prakash, who ran a workshop 2 hours outside the city, where they made all the brass fixtures. He had 3 sons, all working with him. She introduced me to the Chen family, who operated a woodworking facility across the border. Their grandfather had started it 50 years ago. There was Amita, who managed a place where 20 women dyed fabrics using traditional methods. There was Joseph, who could get materials faster than anyone else when things got tight. Learn their names, Ruth told me. Learn their children's names. Learn when they need money early, when they're struggling, when they're doing well. Treat them like people, not just suppliers. They'll remember that, and I did. For 11 years, I built those relationships. When Prakash's middle son got married, I sent a gift. When the Chen family needed their payment a week early because of new equipment, I made sure Harold approved it. When Amita's workshop had a fire and lost half their inventory, I called her every day for a month, checking in, making sure she knew we'd wait for her to rebuild. I remembered everything. Which workshop was fastest for rush orders, which one produced the smoothest finishes, which family needed gentle handling because they were traditional and didn't like pushy behavior, which one you could joke with, and which one expected formality. I never wrote any of it down. Not once. No spreadsheets. No contact lists. Nothing in the company's systems. Just like Ruth taught me, Harold never asked questions. As long as products arrived on time, he was happy. He never wanted to know the details. He'd just say, "Handle it, Lena." And I did. Over the years, Ashford grew. They hired more people, fancier people, people with degrees from expensive schools who used big words in meetings. I stayed in my small workspace, making calls, sending messages, keeping everything moving. Nobody really noticed me. I was just there, the woman who made sure things arrived. Then Sienna graduated from college 2 years ago. Harold immediately brought her in, gave her a title, something about brand development. She started showing up to meetings, offering opinions, changing things. She was loud, confident, the kind of person who walked into a room and expected everyone to pay attention. She never spoke to me directly. I don't think she even knew what I did. To her, I was just someone who worked there, someone in the background. 3 months ago, Harold called a big meeting. He announced the Heritage Collection, a massive launch, complete room sets, furniture, fabrics, decorations, lighting, everything coordinated. They'd been planning it for a year, he said. They'd already taken advance orders worth millions. The launch was scheduled for 8 weeks out. It required 17 different suppliers. Some I'd worked with for years. Some were new relationships I'd spent months building. Prakash's workshop was making 70 different brass pieces. The Chen family was producing 12 furniture designs. Amita's workshop was dyeing fabrics in 8 custom shades. Joseph was coordinating materials from 4 different sources. I had it all organized in my head, the timeline, the quantities, the backup plans for when something went wrong, because something always went wrong. Nobody asked me about it. They just assumed it would happen, because it always did. 2 weeks after that meeting, Harold called me in. "Lena, we're restructuring your role," he said. He didn't look at me while he talked, just shuffled some papers around. "We've hired someone new to handle supplier relations, someone with experience in global operations. You'll be supporting them, transitioning to more administrative work." Administrative work? I repeated. "You know, general support, whatever's needed. You've done great work, but we're scaling up now. We need someone with a more strategic approach." I felt something shift in my chest. What about the Heritage Collection? I've been coordinating all 17 suppliers. The new person will take over. You'll brief them. Brief them on what, exactly? There's nothing written down. He looked up then. "What do you mean, nothing written down?" "I mean, I've been managing all the relationships personally. The contact information, the processes, the history with each supplier. It's not in your systems." He stared at me. "Why not?" "Because that's how Ruth did it. That's how I learned. You never asked for anything different. You just said handle it, so I handled it." He waved his hand, dismissing it. "Then you'll explain everything to the new person." Simple. It wasn't simple, but I nodded and left. The new person started the following week. His name was Trevor. He had worked at 3 other companies, all bigger than Ashford. He spoke in long sentences about optimization and efficiency. He asked me for the supplier database. "There isn't one," I told him. He laughed. "There has to be." "There doesn't." He stopped laughing. I spent 2 weeks trying to explain how everything worked, but he didn't want to listen. He wanted lists and numbers and processes. He wanted me to just give him what he needed so he could take over. He didn't understand that you can't just call up Prakash and demand delivery dates. You have to ask about his family first. You have to remember that his youngest son just had a baby. You have to understand that the Chen family won't negotiate prices over messages. They need to hear your voice. Trevor didn't care about any of that. After 2 weeks, he told Harold I wasn't being cooperative. So there I was at the retreat, still technically employed, but pushed aside, watching Sienna give presentations, picking up her mess, being compared to her dog. I stood outside that retreat center for 20 minutes. Then I got in my car and drove home. 3 hours through the mountains, alone, with my thoughts. On Monday morning, I walked into Ashford at 8 o'clock. I went straight to Harold's workspace and handed him a single piece of paper. "This is my resignation, effective immediately." He looked confused. "What? Why?" "Look, if this is about what Sienna said, it's not about what she said. I'm done. That's all. But the Heritage Collection launches in 6 weeks. Trevor is still learning. That's not my concern anymore." I turned and walked out, packed up my small workspace. 11 years fit into 2 boxes. I carried them to my car and drove away. Thank you for listening this far. I know this might seem like just another workplace story, but what happened next changed everything. Before I continue, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments. It means a lot to know you're there. Now, back to what happened. I went home and slept for 12 hours straight. When I woke up, my daughter was sitting on my bed. Mom, why are you home? It's Tuesday. Tuesday. I'd slept through Monday night. I sat up, rubbed my eyes. I quit my job, sweetheart. She was 16 now, old enough to understand. The place you've been at forever? That one. Why? Because they didn't respect me, and I stayed too long already. She hugged me, didn't ask more questions, just hugged me. I spent that whole week at home. I cleaned everything, organized closets I'd been ignoring for years, cooked actual meals instead of throwing together whatever was quick. I slept late. I didn't check my phone. It felt strange. 11 years of waking up thinking about shipments and delivery schedules and which supplier needed a call that day. Now, nothing. Just quiet. My phone rang constantly that first week. I didn't answer. 12 calls from Harold, 8 from Trevor, even a few from other people at Ashford. I let them all go to messages. The messages started polite. Lena, please call us back. We need to discuss your transition. Then they got more urgent. Lena, we really need your help with the supplier contacts. Please respond. Then desperate. Lena, the Heritage Collection is in serious trouble. We'll pay you for consultation. Name your price. I deleted them all. On Friday afternoon, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the window. Trevor. He looked terrible. His shirt was wrinkled, hair messy. I almost didn't open it, but something made me curious. What do you want? I asked through the door. Please, Lena, just talk to me for 5 minutes. I opened it but didn't invite him in. Just stood there in the doorway. Everything's falling apart, he said. I can't find any of the suppliers. The files don't exist. Nobody has contact information. The few numbers I found, when I call them, they don't know who I am. They keep asking for you. That's unfortunate. Please, just give me the contact list. That's all I need. I'll figure out the rest. There is no contact list. His face went red. Stop lying. You have to have something written down. Nobody works with 17 suppliers and keeps it all in their head. I did. That's insane. That's not how professionals work. I shrugged. Maybe not, but that's how I worked. And it worked fine for 11 years. Harold will pay you whatever you want. Just help us. The launch is in 5 weeks. I'm not interested in helping. Have a good day, Trevor. I closed the door. He stood there for a few more minutes, then left. The following week, I started getting calls from the suppliers themselves. Prakash called first. Lena, what's happening? Some man called me yesterday asking about brass fixtures. He was rude, didn't even ask how I was doing, just demanded to know about production schedules and pricing. I don't work there anymore, Prakash. Silence. Then, you left Ashford? I did. But who will I work with now? I don't know. They hired someone new. But honestly, Prakash, maybe it's time to find other clients. Ashford doesn't treat people well. He sighed. They never treated me well. They treated you well, and you treated me well. That's why I stayed. We talked for 20 more minutes. About his family, about his workshop, about possibilities for his future. When we hung up, I felt lighter somehow. Amita called the next day, then Joseph, then the Chen family's oldest son, all of them asking the same questions. What happened? Who is this new person calling them? Where did I go? I told them all the same thing. I left. They should do what's best for their own work. By the 3rd week, none of them were answering Ashford's calls anymore. My phone rang at 6 in the morning on a Wednesday. Harold. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Lena. His voice was strained. We need to talk. I don't think we do. Please, come in. Just once. Let's discuss this like adults. There's nothing to discuss. I resigned. You accepted it. I'm asking you to reconsider. We'll double your salary. We'll give you whatever title you want. We'll make Trevor report to you, instead of the other way around. I don't want any of that. Then what do you want? I thought about it. About Sienna's laugh. About being on my knees. About Harold sitting there grinning, while his daughter humiliated me in front of 43 people. I want to spend time with my daughter. I want to wake up without feeling sick about going to work. I want to be somewhere I'm actually valued, not just used. We value you. I see that now. We made a mistake. You made a lot of mistakes, Harold. For a long time, I'm done fixing them. The Heritage Collection will fail without you. We'll lose everything. That sounds like your problem, not mine. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, harder. You're destroying this company out of spite, because of one comment from Sienna. That's incredibly petty. Something hot flashed through me. One comment? Harold, you restructured my entire role. You brought in someone to replace me after 11 years of me keeping your whole operation running. You never once asked how I did what I did. You just assumed it would all keep working, even after you pushed me aside. And then your daughter compared me to her dog while I was on the floor picking up her mess, and you sat there laughing. So no, this isn't about one comment. This is about 11 years of not being seen. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but it felt good. Really good. 3 days later, Amita called me. Lena, I got a strange call today from a lawyer representing Ashford. They said I'm contractually obligated to fulfill orders for them, but I never signed any contract with Ashford. I only worked with you on trust. That's because there are no contracts, I told her. Harold kept everything informal to save money. He can't force you to do anything. That's what I thought. I just wanted to check with you first. You don't owe them anything, Amita. She laughed. Good. Because that man, Trevor, was so unpleasant. I have plenty of other work now anyway. Over the next few days, I heard similar stories from other suppliers. Ashford was trying to pressure them legally, but there was nothing to enforce. No signed agreements, no documentation, just years of handshake deals and personal relationships that died the moment I walked out. 4 weeks after I quit, an article appeared in one of the trade publications. Luxury brand Ashford Home Collection cancels major launch. The article talked about production issues and supplier problems. It mentioned disappointed customers demanding refunds for advance orders. It estimated the company's losses in the millions. I read it twice, felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just nothing. My daughter came home from school and found me on the couch with my laptop. "What are you doing?" she asked, looking at job postings. "Already. Money doesn't last forever, sweetheart. I need to work." She sat down next to me. "Are you going to find another place like Ashford?" "No, I'm going to find somewhere that actually values the people who work there. Somewhere that sees what I can do and appreciates it." "Good," she said. "You deserve that." I smiled. She was right. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but it wasn't an Ashford exchange. So I picked up. "Hello. Is this Lena?" "Yes. My name is Katerina. I run a company called Belmont Trading. We connect craftspeople and small manufacturers with retailers. I heard about you through Prakash. He spoke very highly of your work." I sat up straighter. "Oh?" He said you spent 11 years building relationships with suppliers across multiple countries. That you understood not just the work side, but the human side. That suppliers trusted you completely. Is that accurate? I suppose it is. I'd like to meet with you. We're expanding, and we need someone who can manage supplier relationships the right way. Not just contracts and numbers, but real relationships. Would you be interested in discussing it? I thought about Ruth all those years ago. Keep it in your head. Make yourself irreplaceable. But maybe there was another way. Maybe I could build something better. Something where the relationships mattered, but weren't held hostage. "Yes," I said. "I'd be interested." We met the following week. Katerina's operation was smaller than Ashford, but growing fast. She introduced me to her team. 7 people, all around my age, all serious about their work. She explained what they did, how they helped small workshops and family operations connect with buyers who would treat them fairly. "Too many companies exploit these craftspeople," she said. "They demand fast work, low prices, no contracts to protect the makers. We want to do it differently. Fair agreements, fair prices, long-term relationships built on respect." "That sounds good," I said. "Prakash told me what happened at your last place. The way they treated you, that won't happen here. Everyone on my team is valued. We're building something together." She offered me a position. The salary was less than Ashford had been paying, but not by much. The title was Partnership Director. I'd work with craftspeople and manufacturers, building relationships. But this time, everything would be documented properly, protected, not just living in my head. I accepted. On my last day before starting the new job, I took my daughter out for dinner, just the two of us at a small place near our home. We ordered too much food and talked about everything and nothing. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For leaving. For not letting them treat you badly anymore. A lot of people would have stayed. I stayed for a long time. Too long. But you left eventually. That counts." We finished eating and walked home slowly. The air was warm, the streets quiet. I felt lighter than I had in years. Starting at Belmont felt right from day one. Katerina introduced me to suppliers they already worked with. I reached out to Prakash, Amita, Joseph, the Chen family. They were all excited to work together again, this time through a company that would treat them fairly. Within 2 months, Belmont signed agreements with all 17 workshops I'd spent years building relationships with. Real agreements, with fair terms for everyone. I heard through Prakash that Ashford was struggling badly. The Heritage Collection failure had damaged their reputation. Big retailers were canceling orders. Harold had to let people go. "They're trying to sell the whole company," Prakash told me. "Nobody wants to buy it, though. Not after everything that happened." I didn't ask more questions. Didn't need to. 6 months into working at Belmont, I was sitting at my workspace when Katerina walked over with her phone in her hand. "You need to see this," she said, showing me an article. The headline read, "Ashford Home Collection Acquired in Distress Sale." The buyer was a large furniture manufacturer that specialized in mass production. Cheap materials, fast turnaround, nothing like what Ashford used to make. The sale price was barely enough to cover their debts, according to the article. "That's Harold's company," I said. "I know. Prakash told me about what happened there, about why you left." I handed her phone back. "It's in the past. Still must feel like something, seeing it end that way." I thought about it. Mostly, I feel sad for the people who worked there and did nothing wrong. They lost their jobs because Harold made bad choices. She nodded. "We're hiring, you know. If any of them reach out to you, send them my way." That afternoon, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in months. "Trevor, Lena, I know I don't have any right to ask you for anything, but I just lost my job and I'm trying to figure out what to do next. Could we talk? Not about Ashford. About how you built relationships with suppliers. I realize now I didn't understand what you were actually doing. I'd like to learn." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but I remembered being 29 and desperate for work. I remembered Ruth taking the time to teach me, even though she was retiring and didn't have to. I wrote back, "Call me tomorrow afternoon." We talked for an hour. He apologized for how he'd treated me, for not listening, for thinking his fancy experience made him better at the work than someone who'd been doing it for years. "I thought it was all about processes and systems," he said. "I didn't realize it was about people, about actually caring whether Prakash's son just had a baby, about remembering that the Chen family doesn't like negotiating over messages. I thought those details were just small talk. They're not small talk. They're the actual work. I see that now. Too late, obviously. It's not too late. You just need to start over with a different approach." I didn't offer him a job, but I gave him advice, told him which companies might be hiring, explained how to build relationships the right way. When we hung up, I felt good about it. Not because I'd forgiven everything, but because helping someone learn felt better than holding on to anger. Spring came. Belmont kept growing. We signed 12 new supplier partnerships. Katerina promoted me to Senior Partnership Director. My daughter finished her school year with excellent marks and started talking about universities. One evening in late spring, my phone rang. Unknown number again. I answered. "Lena?" I recognized the voice immediately. "Sienna, what do you want?" I asked. "I know you probably don't want to talk to me. I understand, but I wanted to call and apologize for what I said at the retreat. It was cruel and unnecessary, and I've thought about it a lot since everything fell apart." I didn't respond, just waited. My father lost everything. The company, our savings, everything. We had to sell our house. I had to move back in with my grandmother. I'm working at a retail store now, trying to help pay bills. "I'm sorry that happened to your family," I said. And I meant it, not because I forgave her, but because I didn't want anyone to suffer that much. My father told me recently what you actually did at Ashford, how you held all those relationships together for 11 years, how none of it was written down anywhere, how when you left, it all disappeared. I didn't understand at the time. I thought you were just someone who did basic tasks. I didn't realize you were the person keeping everything running. Most people didn't realize. That's not an excuse for how I treated you. What I said was horrible. I compared you to my dog in front of everyone. I humiliated you. And my father just laughed. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Lena. I really am. I sat down. This wasn't what I expected. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I did, and that I'm sorry. We talked for a few more minutes. She asked what I was doing now. I told her about Belmont, about the work we were doing. She sounded genuinely happy for me. When we hung up, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, exactly, but something close to it, like I could finally put that whole chapter away completely. Summer arrived hot and bright. My daughter and I took a trip together, just the two of us. 5 days at the coast. We swam and ate too much food and stayed up late talking about her future. She'd been accepted to 3 universities. She was trying to decide which one felt right. What do you think I should do, Mom? She asked one night while we sat on the beach watching the sunset. I think you should go wherever makes you feel excited about what's coming next. Not scared, not uncertain, excited. She smiled. That's good advice. I should probably follow it myself more often. You did, though. You left Ashford and found Belmont. That took courage. It took too long. I should have left years earlier, but you left when you were ready. That matters too. She was wise, my daughter. Wiser than I'd been at her age. When we got back from the trip, there was a letter waiting for me. Official looking, from a law firm. My heart sank. Had Ashford decided to sue me for something? I opened it carefully. It wasn't from Ashford. It was from a company I'd never heard of. They were launching a new initiative to connect ethical manufacturers with responsible retailers. They'd heard about my work at Belmont. They wanted to know if I'd be interested in speaking at their conference in the fall, about building sustainable supplier relationships based on trust and respect. Me. Speaking at a conference. I showed Katerina the next day. She grinned. You should do it. You're good at this work. Other people should learn from you. I'm not a speaker. I just do the work. The best speakers are the ones who actually do the work, not the ones who just talk about it. I agreed to speak, spent the next 2 months terrified and excited at the same time. The conference was in a city 8 hours away. Large venue, hundreds of people. I'd never done anything like it. The night before my presentation, I couldn't sleep, kept going over what I wanted to say. When I walked onto that stage the next morning, my hands were shaking. But then I started talking about Prakash and his 3 sons, about Amita and her workshop of 20 women, about the Chen family and their grandfather's legacy, about what it means to treat people like human beings, instead of just resources. The audience listened, really listened. When I finished, they clapped for a long time. Afterward, at least 30 people came up to talk to me, asked questions, wanted advice, handed me their contact information. One woman waited until everyone else had left. She was older. Maybe Ruth's age would have been now. I used to do work like yours, she said, for 30 years. Then I retired. Watching you speak brought it all back. The good parts, I mean. The relationships. The trust. Thank you for reminding me why I loved that work. I hugged her, this stranger who understood exactly what I did and why it mattered. Flying home, I thought about the past year, about everything that had changed, about how being compared to a dog had somehow led to this, to work I loved, to respect I'd earned, to a future that felt bright instead of heavy. My daughter picked me up from the airport. How did it go? She asked. Really well. Better than I expected. I knew it would. You're good at what you do, Mom. Finally, other people are seeing it too. At Belmont, things continued growing. We expanded into 2 new countries, hired 6 more people. Katerina made me a partner in the company. Actual ownership, not just a title. My name on the building. One afternoon in late fall, I was reviewing some agreements when my phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't have saved but recognized immediately. Harold. Lena, I know I have no right to contact you, but I wanted to let you know that I've been thinking a lot about my mistakes over the past year, about how I treated you and others. I'm working with a small furniture maker now, just helping in their workshop, learning the craft side of things. I should have learned it years ago. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you for the 11 years you gave to Ashford. You deserved so much better than how we treated you. I hope you're doing well. I read it 3 times, didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either, just left it there. By winter, my daughter had chosen her university. She'd be leaving in 8 months. We spent more time together, just the 2 of us, cooking together, watching shows, talking about everything. Are you scared? I asked her one night. About leaving? A little, but mostly excited. Like you said, that's how you know it's right. You're going to do amazing things. I learned from the best, she said, squeezing my hand. The year ended quietly. Belmont closed out with the strongest numbers we'd ever had. Katerina threw a small party for everyone. We ate and laughed and celebrated what we'd built together. A company where people mattered, where relationships were real, where nobody had to keep everything in their head just to feel irreplaceable. Because being replaceable wasn't the threat. Being undervalued was. On the last day of the year, I sat down and wrote a list. Not of goals or resolutions, just things I'd learned. That staying somewhere that doesn't value you will eventually break you. That walking away is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. That the relationships you build matter more than the systems you create. That being underestimated can be painful, but it can also be fuel. That teaching someone who wronged you takes more strength than punishing them. That your worth isn't determined by how others see you, but by how you see yourself. I folded the list and put it away. Didn't need to read it again. It was already part of me now. Sienna's dog might have learned to fetch in 2 days, but I spent 11 years learning how to build something real, how to create trust, how to see people as people, not just resources. And when everything fell apart for Ashford, those relationships, that trust, that way of seeing people came with me. They couldn't take that away because it was never theirs to begin with. It was always mine. Thank you so much for listening to my story all the way through. If this resonated with you, if you've ever felt unseen or undervalued at your work, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps me share more stories like this one. Thank you again. I hope wherever you are, you know your worth.